The Via Sacra, Rome's sacred road. 106c. The noise hits first. Before anything else, before the sights, before the smells, before the understanding, there's the sound. Hundreds of thousands of Roman citizens lining the streets, packed so tightly they seem to merge into a single roaring organism. Cheering, screaming, celebrating. She walks through this storm of sound in golden chains. The chains are theatrical touch. Regular iron would suffice for restraint, but gold makes the spectacle more visually striking. Conquered barbarian princess bound in Rome's wealth. The symbolism is deliberate, crushing. Her name doesn't matter anymore. In Dacia, she was someone, daughter of a chieftain, member of the nobility, a person with lineage and future. But Dacia is conquered. Her father died fighting the legions. Her people are scattered, killed, enslaved, absorbed into the empire that crushed them. She's 20 years old, stunningly beautiful by Roman standards, tall, dark-haired, features that mark her as exotic, foreign, other. This beauty is why she's positioned prominently in the triumph parade. Not hidden among the mass of captives, but displayed. Merchandise advertised before sale. The triumph. Emperor Trajan has conquered Dacia after 2 brutal wars. Now he celebrates with Rome's most spectacular tradition, the triumph. A massive parade displaying the spoils of war to the citizens who funded it with their taxes and their sons. The procession is overwhelming. First come the senators, walking in formal togas, dignified and powerful. Then the spoils, wagons loaded with Dacian gold, silver, weapons, the famous Dacian dragon standard carried upside down in deliberate humiliation. Then exotic animals from the conquered territories, bears, wolves, creatures most Romans have never seen. Then the captives. Hundreds of them. Dacian warriors still bearing their wounds. Women carrying children. Elders who can barely walk. All chained together, marched through Rome to demonstrate the totality of their defeat. And prominently displayed among them, her. The beautiful princess. Wearing the remnants of her noble clothing, deliberately arranged to show her status while revealing enough to entertain. Hands bound in golden chains. Face deliberately left unbowed. The Romans want to see her features, want to assess the quality of the conquered. The route is long, from the Campus Martius through the Circus Maximus, along the Via Sacra past the Forum, past the Colosseum, ending at the Temple of Jupiter. Hours of walking on rough stone with bare feet. Hours of being stared at, pointed at, commented upon by hundreds of thousands of strangers. The sensory assault. The sound is inescapable. Not just volume but variety, horns blaring victory fanfares, drums pounding military rhythms, soldiers chanting triumph songs, citizens screaming approval, children crying, animals roaring. The noise is physical pressure, makes thought difficult, makes communication impossible. The sights overwhelm. Rome is the largest city in the world, over 1 million inhabitants. The buildings are massive, marble temples, multi-story insulae, apartment blocks, monuments towering above the crowds. Purple banners bearing SPQR everywhere. Flowers scattered on the road. The crowds themselves, more people than she's seen in her entire life, all pressed together, all watching her. The smells assault. Incense burning at every temple they pass. Wine, spectators are drinking, celebrating. Flowers crushed underfoot releasing perfume. Sweat, her own, the other captives, the masses of humanity pressed into the streets. The acrid smell of her own fear. The physical sensations multiply. Her feet bleeding from walking barefoot on stone roads designed for sandaled Romans. The chains heavy on her wrists despite being gold. The Mediterranean summer's sun brutal on her skin, she's used to the cooler climate of Dacia. Dehydration making her lips crack. exhaustion from hours of walking without rest. And the hands. Roman citizens reaching from the crowds to touch her, grabbing at her clothing, her hair, her skin. The guards push them back, but not quickly enough to prevent the violation. She's exotic commodity. They want to touch conquered barbarian princess. The Colosseum. At one point, the route passes the Flavian amphitheater, what will later be called the Colosseum. It's relatively new, completed just 26 years earlier under Emperor Titus. For stories of limestone and concrete rising above the cityscape. Massive. Eternal. Capable of holding 50,000 spectators. She sees it and doesn't yet understand what it means. Just another overwhelming Roman structure among many. But she'll learn. Soon enough, she'll know it intimately, the sand, the blood, the roar of crowds demanding death. For now, it's just monument. Background to her humiliation. The realization. Somewhere during the hours-long parade, the full reality settles into her consciousness like lead into her stomach. This is permanent. There's no diplomatic solution coming. No prisoner exchange. No ransom negotiation. Her people are conquered. Destroyed. Those who survived are being absorbed into the empire as slaves, as workers, as disposable labor and entertainment. She is property now. Legal property of the Roman state. To be distributed, sold, used, discarded as Rome sees fit. The cheering crowds aren't celebrating her. They're celebrating her destruction. Her civilization's annihilation. The total victory of Rome over everything she represents. Her existence as a person has ended. Her existence as thing, as spectacle, as commodity, has begun. And there's no escape. The empire is vast, powerful, eternal. It stretches from Britain to Mesopotamia, from Germania to Africa. Where could she run? Where could she hide? Who would shelter a branded, escaped slave from Rome's justice? Nowhere. No one. Never. The ending. The triumph culminates at the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on the Capitoline Hill. Trajan offers sacrifice to the gods. Thanks them for Roman victory. Dedicates the spoils to their glory. The most important Dacian prisoners, the nobles, the warriors who fought hardest, are executed here. Ritual strangulation. Their bodies thrown down the Gemonian stairs, left to rot as warning and spectacle. She watches this. Sees people she knew, commanders who served her father, nobles who attended her household, murdered as entertainment. Their crime, resisting Rome. Their punishment, public execution disguised as religious necessity. She's spared this fate. Not from mercy. From economics. She's too valuable to waste in execution. Beautiful female captive from exotic conquered land? That's marketable. That's profitable. She'll be sold. To the highest bidder. For whatever purpose they see fit. As the triumph ends and the crowds disperse, as she's led away in chains toward the holding cells where captives await auction, she takes one last look at Rome. The Golden City. The marble temples. The eternal empire. This is the world that destroyed hers. And now she belongs to it. Completely. Forever. 3 days after the triumph. The slave markets near the Forum. The holding cells where they kept her were deliberate psychological torture, dark, cramped, barely enough food and water to survive. Weakening the captives before sale. Making them compliant. Desperate. She's weak when they bring her to the market. Hasn't eaten properly in days. Dehydrated. Exhausted. But still beautiful. That's what matters to the buyers. The market. The slave markets operate with brutal efficiency. Different sections for different types of merchandise. Agricultural slaves, strong, healthy bodies needed for field work. Buyers examine muscles, backs, hands. Looking for workers who can labor from dawn to dark, survive on minimal rations, last several years before being worked to death. Domestic slaves, younger, more attractive, trainable. Buyers examine faces, check for intelligence, assess tractability. These will serve in wealthy households as cooks, cleaners, attendants. The pretty ones have other purposes too, unspoken but understood. Skilled slaves, literate captives, craftsmen, those with valuable specialized knowledge. These command premium prices. A Greek tutor, a Syrian physician, a Germanic metalworker, worth more than common laborers. And then there's the specialized markets. Mines, death sentence, nobody survives long in Roman mines. Brothels, sexual slavery disguised as entrepreneurship. And the ludus market, gladiator schools. She's brought to an open platform where high-value merchandise is displayed. Chained to a post with other Dacian captives. Mixed genders, mixed ages. All being evaluated, assessed, priced. The buyers. They approach throughout the morning. Different types. Wealthy patricians looking for household slaves. They examine her carefully, face, teeth, hands. Too beautiful for kitchen work, they calculate, probably destined for more intimate service. But the examination is cursory. They move on. Brothel owners. More invasive examination. Checking her body, her age, estimating her value in the sex trade. But something about her bearing, the way she won't drop her eyes, the lingering pride despite everything, makes them hesitate. This one might be difficult, might resist, might require breaking that damages the merchandise. They offer lower prices, are rejected by the auctioneer. And then, a different kind of buyer. Quintus. He's perhaps 40 years old, weather-beaten face, wearing decent but not luxurious clothing. His bearing is confident, assessing, professional. He moves through the market with purpose, examining slaves with practiced eye. This is Quintus Flavius Verus, Lanista, owner of a mid-tier gladiator school. He's been in the business for 15 years, survived the brutal economics of training fighters, built a modest but profitable operation. He's looking for novelty. The Colosseum games have evolved. Standard gladiator matchups are still popular, but crowds want innovation. Exotic fighters. Unusual weapons. Shocking spectacles. Female gladiators are rare but documented. Scandalous. Transgressive. Romans find the idea of women fighting simultaneously disturbing and entertaining. Perfect for drawing crowds. He sees her and sees potential. The examination. Quintus approaches. Doesn't speak to her initially. Slaves don't merit direct conversation before purchase. Instead, he examines her like livestock. Height. Tall for a woman. Perhaps 170 centimeters. Good reach advantage. Build, not delicate. Athletic. Dacian women from warrior cultures sometimes trained in combat skills. She has some muscle development under the malnourishment. Hands. Rough. Not the soft hands of a woman who's done only domestic work. She's used weapons or tools. Possible previous combat training. Face. Striking. Exotic features. The kind of beauty that draws attention. Perfect for arena spectacle. Health. The auctioneer's physician checks her. No diseases visible, no serious injuries, young enough to train heavily. Quintus speaks to her in broken Dacian, learned from previous Dacian slaves he's owned. You warrior? She doesn't respond. Pride, defiance, or genuine incomprehension. He tries Latin through the auctioneer's translator. You will fight. You will kill. You will die. Or you will become rich. Your choice. Still no response. But her eyes, they're not empty. She's processing, understanding, calculating survival options. This is good. Quintus doesn't want broken merchandise. Doesn't want catatonic slave who needs extensive rehabilitation. He wants someone with enough spirit to fight convincingly, enough intelligence to learn technique, enough survival instinct to make arena performance compelling. She has potential. The purchase. The negotiation is brutal economics. The auctioneer starts high, beautiful female captive from recent triumph, premium merchandise. Quintus counters low, unproven fighter, might not survive training, risky investment. They settle mid-range. Approximately 2,000 denarii, expensive for an unproven slave, cheap for a potentially successful gladiator. Quintus pays in coin. Transaction complete. She's his property now. Legally, completely. He owns her the way he owns his weapons, his armor, his training equipment. She's an investment. Livestock with combat potential. The branding. Before leaving the market, Quintus has her branded. Standard practice, marking property to prevent theft, to identify ownership, to make escape pointless. Branded slave is easily identified, impossible to hide. The brand is applied to her left shoulder. Red-hot iron pressed to flesh. The smell of burning skin, her own. The pain is blinding, total, nauseating. She screams. Nobody cares. This is routine. The mark is permanent. Quintus's ludus symbol. She'll carry it until death. She's also collared. Iron collar riveted around her neck, inscribed with Quintus's name and ludus location. The collar is heavy, constant reminder of her status. She'll wear this for as long as she's enslaved, which is probably the rest of her life. The name. Quintus gives her a new name. Not her Dacian name. Nobody can pronounce it, nobody cares what it is. She's given a stage name, Daciana. It's not even a real name. Just descriptor. The Dacian woman. Advertisement of her exotic origin. Marketing tool. Her real name, the name her mother spoke, her father blessed, that's gone. Erased. Replaced by commodity description. From now on she's Daciana. Gladiatrix. Property of Quintus Flavius Verus. Fighter in training for Rome's entertainment. The journey. They leave the market. Quintus owns a wagon for transporting equipment and new purchases. She's chained in the back with recently purchased male gladiator recruits, criminals, war captives, volunteers desperate enough to sell themselves into arena slavery. The journey to the ludus takes hours. Through Rome streets, out through the city gates, to one of the gladiator schools on the outskirts. During the journey, the reality settles. She's been purchased for violence. Not for domestic work, not for sexual slavery, though that might be part of it, but specifically for combat. To fight. To kill. To die. For entertainment. Her beauty, which might have been asset in other contexts, is curse here. Quintus didn't buy her despite her appearance, he bought her because of it. Beautiful female fighter is rare spectacle. Exotic novelty. Scandalous entertainment. Whether she wins or dies, Quintus profits. The investment pays off through rental fees to games organizers, through betting, through the spectacle itself. Her suffering is his business model. And there's no escape. The brand on her shoulder. The collar around her neck. The legal system that classifies her as property with no rights, no recourse, no protection. She's gladiator now. The training to transform her from Dacian noblewoman into Roman entertainment is about to begin. The ludus. Quintus's gladiator school. High walls. Guarded gates. A central courtyard for training. Barracks for gladiators. Trainers' quarters. Medical facilities. Kitchen. Armory. Storage. This is prison, military installation, and slaughterhouse combined. Daciana enters and immediately understands the hierarchy through observation. At the top, veteran gladiators who've won enough fights to earn privileges. Private cells, better food, occasional permission to leave the ludus under guard. These are valuable investments. Quintus protects them. In the middle, competent fighters still proving themselves. Shared quarters, adequate food, hard training but fair treatment. These are revenue generators. At the bottom, new recruits. Untested. Expendable. Given minimal resources until they prove they can survive training and perform in arena. Many die before ever fighting publicly. Training accidents, disease, suicide, punishment for disobedience. Daciana is at the absolute bottom. And she's the only woman among perhaps 50 male gladiators. The isolation is immediate and total. The breaking. The first days are designed to destroy whatever identity she brought with her. Her hair is cut. Not gently, roughly, with shears designed for shearing sheep. Dacian noblewomen wear elaborate hairstyles. Having her hair chopped short is cultural violation, deliberate humiliation. But it's also practical. Long hair is combat liability, can be grabbed, can obscure vision. She's given minimal clothing. Rough wool tunic, barely covering her to mid-thigh. Designed for function, not modesty. The exposure is deliberate. Strip away dignity, make her vulnerable, establish that her body isn't hers to control. She's assigned a cell. Small, perhaps 2 meters by 3 meters. Stone walls. Straw mattress on raised stone platform. Bucket for waste. One small window too high to reach, providing minimal light and air. The door is locked at night. This cell will be her entire personal space. She's fed minimally. Porridge made from barley. Bread, water. Calculated rations. Enough to survive the training, not enough to feel satisfied. Hunger becomes constant background sensation. Makes her think about food, about survival, about compliance being rewarded with extra portions. The trainers, the doctors, trainers, are former gladiators who survived long enough to retire into teaching. They're professional, not sadistic. Their job is creating competent fighters, not torturing prisoners. But the training itself is brutal enough that the distinction barely matters. The head trainer for new recruits is a scarred German named Gunderic, captured in Germania decades ago, fought for years, earned freedom through victories, now makes living training others. He's efficient, harsh, utterly unsentimental about his work. He looks at Daciana and sees a problem. Female, foreign, probably has no real combat experience despite whatever Quintus hoped. She'll need extensive training before she's arena ready. If she survives the training at all. The training. The regimen begins at dawn. Physical conditioning, running laps around the courtyard. Lifting weights, stone and lead. Squats, push-ups, core exercises. Hours of building strength, endurance, speed. The male recruits are stronger. Daciana is constantly behind, constantly struggling. The trainers don't care. Keep up or be beaten for laziness. Weapon training, she's assessed for gladiator type. Based on her build, tall, athletic but not heavily muscled, she's assigned provocator. Balanced fighter with medium armor, rectangular shield, gladius. Not the heaviest type, Murmillo, or the lightest, Retiarius, but versatile. She must learn the weapons. The gladius, short sword, about 60 centimeters, designed for stabbing more than slashing. The scutum, rectangular shield about 1.2 meters tall, curved to protect the body. The weight is shocking. The shield alone is perhaps 10 kilograms. Training starts with rudis, wooden practice sword, and wooden shield. Safer but still painful when struck. She learns basic guards, basic attacks, basic footwork. Thousands of repetitions. Strike the paulus, training post. Guard positions. Footwork drills. She's hit constantly. By trainers demonstrating technique. By other recruits during sparring. She learns through pain. Every mistake results in a strike, every hesitation gets punished. The bruises multiply. Her body becomes a map of impacts. Psychological conditioning. The trainers work to erase her previous identity. You are not Dacian. You are gladiator. You are not person. You are entertainment. Your job is not survival. It is to make the crowd react. She's taught crowd-pleasing moves, dramatic poses, theatrical flourishes. Winning isn't enough. She must win entertainingly. A boring victory is commercial failure. Better to die spectacularly than win boringly. She's shown recordings, in the form of veteran gladiators demonstrating, of proper arena behavior, acknowledging the crowd, appealing to the editor, game sponsor, dying with dignity if defeated. The isolation. She's the only woman. The male gladiators mostly ignore her. Fraternization is complicated, often forbidden, and they have their own survival to worry about. She can't communicate well, her Latin is limited, and the ludus contains fighters from across the empire speaking dozens of languages. Germanic warriors, Gallic rebels, Thracian prisoners, African captives, all united in being property, being gladiators, being entertainment. She's utterly alone in a compound full of people. No allies. No one who sees her as human. Just fellow merchandise waiting to be used. The loneliness is weapon. More effective than beating. It breaks psychological resistance, makes her desperate for any human connection, makes compliance with trainers' demands seem like pathway to acceptance. The breaking point. Perhaps 2 months into training, time blurs. Days are identical, marked only by progressive improvement in weapons handling and progressive destruction of who she was. Daciana reaches psychological crisis. It's during a particularly brutal training session. She's exhausted, been beaten repeatedly for mistakes, hasn't eaten adequately in days, punishment for poor performance. Her body is breaking down, constant bruises, a cracked rib from a training accident, infected blisters on her feet. She collapses during a drill. Simply can't continue. Lies on the ground, weapon fallen from her hand. Gund-Erik approaches. Kicks her. Get up. She doesn't move. He kicks harder. Get up or I beat you unconscious and you train anyway. She looks up at him. And something breaks inside her. The last resistance. The final fragment of the Dacian noblewoman she was. She understands. She can't win by resisting. Can't preserve her old self. The person she was is liability. Deadweight. Obstacle to survival. To survive, she must become what they want. Must be gladiator. Completely. Without reservation. Without holding back part of herself. She gets up. Picks up her weapon. Returns to the drill. Performs correctly. Gund-Erik nods. Satisfied. He's seen this moment before in countless recruits. The moment they break. The moment they accept their fate. The moment they become useful. From this point forward, her improvement accelerates. She's no longer fighting the training, she's embracing it. Learning eagerly. Becoming weapon. Quintus, watching from his office, sees the change. Makes a note. Daciana is ready. Schedule her for first fight next month. The investment is about to pay off. The day arrives. 4 months after her capture. 3 months after purchase. 2 months after the breaking point. Daciana is being taken to the Colosseum. The journey from the ludus begins at dawn. She and 3 other gladiators scheduled for today's games are marched through Rome's streets. Different than her first arrival during the triumph, now she's entertainment about to perform, not captive being displayed. The city is awake, active. Citizens glance at the gladiators, some with interest, recognizing the branded collar, the athletic build, some with indifference. Gladiators are common sight. Nobody sees them as human. just dangerous animals being transported to their proper venue. The entrance. They enter the Colosseum not through the grand public entrances. Those are for spectators, for senators, for the elite who'll watch from comfortable seats. Gladiators enter through service entrances, down ramps, into the Hypogeum. The Hypogeum. The underworld beneath the arena floor. The transition from daylight to darkness is immediate and disorienting. The ramp descends into a vast underground complex. 2 levels of tunnels, cells, mechanical systems. The engineering is brilliant and terrifying. The architecture of death. The Hypogeum is organized chaos. Passages, narrow corridors connecting different areas. Low ceilings, minimal lighting from oil lamps and occasional light shafts from above. The smell is immediate: animal musk, human waste, old blood, burning oil. Cages, wild animals brought from across the empire for the Venetians, beast hunts. She can hear them, roaring, pacing, the rattle of bars. Lions from Africa. Bears from Germania. Leopards from Asia. Starved, agitated, dangerous. The animal handlers move between cages, feeding them minimally, preparing them for the morning shows. Cells, small holding areas where gladiators wait before their scheduled fights. Stone benches. Minimal light. The walls are covered in graffiti, names carved by previous fighters. Some familiar from Ludus history. Many dead now. The machinery. The lift system dominates the space. Wooden platforms on elaborate pulley systems, operated by teams of slaves. These will raise gladiators and animals to arena level through trapdoors in the floor. The mechanical creaking and groaning is constant, ominous background noise. The workers, dozens of people managing this operation. Beast handlers. Stage crew. Medical staff, to remove wounded and dead. The Lanisti like Quintus overseeing their investments. Officials coordinating the complex schedule. The waiting. The games have already started above. Daciana can hear them. The roar of the crowd. 50,000 people creating a sound like ocean waves, constant and overwhelming even through stone and earth. The blaring of horns, announcing events, marking transitions between shows. The rumbling, thousands of feet stamping in approval or impatience. The muffled sounds of combat, the clash of weapons, the screams of dying animals, the cheers for successful kills. She's scheduled for the afternoon. Prime time, when the crowd is largest and most engaged. The morning is devoted to animal hunts. The midday to executions of condemned criminals. Elaborate, theatrical deaths that entertain crowds but don't have the skill or drama of gladiator combat. The afternoon is for gladiators. This is what people paid for. This is the main event. So she waits. For hours. In a small cell with 3 other first-time fighters. None of them speak, too nervous, too focused on what's coming. The preparation. Eventually, handlers come. Time to prepare. Daciana is given her armor. Gallia, helmet with face guard, restricts vision to a narrow rectangle, claustrophobic manica. Segmented metal arm guard on her sword arm, heavy, restricts movement slightly. Acria, greave protecting her left leg, shield side. Scutum, the rectangular shield, freshly painted, marked with Quintus's Ludus symbol gladius, the real weapon. Not the wooden training sword. Actual iron blade, sharpened, ready to kill. The armor is heavy. The helmet especially. It narrows her world to what's directly in front, cuts off peripheral vision, makes her feel isolated even in a crowded space. She's also given a small amount of wine, not enough to intoxicate, but enough to dull the edge of terror. Some gladiators refuse it, want full mental clarity. Some drink heavily, prefer numbness. Daciana drinks moderately, needs calm, but also needs to stay sharp. The psychological moment. In the final minutes before her summons, sitting in the dark cell, armor weighing on her, the sound of crowds above demanding blood, Daciana confronts her mortality. She might die today. Probably will die. If not today, then soon. The survival statistics for gladiators are debated by historians, but the reality is clear. This is a profession with high mortality rate. Most don't survive many fights. She could refuse. Technically. Could drop her weapon, refuse to fight. The penalty would be execution, probably immediate, possibly elaborate. But it would be over quickly. Survival requires fighting, requires killing, requires becoming the thing they made her into. She thinks about her father, dead fighting the legions. Did he feel this before his final battle? This clarity about death approaching? She thinks about her people, conquered, scattered, dead or enslaved. She's the last fragment of Dacian nobility, and she's become Roman entertainment. She thinks about herself, who she was, proud, noble, free. Who she is now, property, gladiator, entertainment. And she decides, survive, at any cost. Become whatever's necessary. The summons comes. The ascent. She's directed to one of the lift platforms with her opponent, another novice, a Gallic prisoner, similar build and training level. This is deliberate matching. First fights should be relatively equal to create drama. They step onto the platform, perhaps 3 meters square, wooden, operated by pulleys and counterweights. Slaves below will pull ropes to raise them. The platform shudders, begins to rise. Slowly, the mechanical groaning of stressed wood and rope. Light appears above, a trap door in the arena floor opening, revealing sky. The roar of the crowd grows louder, no longer muffled by stone and earth. Direct, overwhelming. The light grows brighter. The Mediterranean sun, blinding after hours in the dark Hypogeum. The platform continues rising. She's ascending toward the moment when everything becomes real. When theory becomes practice. When training becomes actual combat with actual death as consequence. The light engulfs her. The trapdoor is fully open. The platform locks into place at arena level. She steps onto the sand. And the world explodes. The sun hits her like a physical blow. After hours in the dark Hypogeum, the noon Mediterranean sun is blinding, painful, disorienting. She can't see for several seconds, just white light, heat, the sense of vast open space. Then her vision adjusts, and she sees the Colosseum. The amphitheater surrounds her completely. For stories of stone rising in tears, filled, utterly filled, with humanity. Approximately 50,000 people, all looking at her. The architecture is designed to focus all attention on the arena floor. The seating curves inward, creating a massive bowl. Every seat faces the center. There's nowhere to hide, nowhere to escape the weight of all those eyes. The crowd is visible in sections. Lower tiers, senators, wealthy elite, close enough to see details of combat middle tiers, plebeians, the common citizens upper tiers, women, lower classes, standing room sections the pulviner, imperial box. If the emperor is attending, she can't tell from this angle. The noise is indescribable. Not just loud, overwhelming. A physical force that makes thought difficult. 50,000 people reacting to her emergence. Cheering, laughing, shouting, creating a wall of sound that seems to press against her from all sides. The sand. The arena floor is covered in sand. Harina, the Latin word that gives the arena its name. The sand is white, imported from Egypt, gleaming in the sun. It serves multiple purposes, provides traction for fighters, absorbs blood, can be raked clean between events. But it's not clean now. This is afternoon. The morning beast hunts and midday executions have already happened. The sand is stained. Dark patches where blood hasn't fully absorbed. Drag marks where bodies were removed. The detritus of previous violence. The floor is large, approximately 80 meters long, 50 meters wide. Enough space to fight, to maneuver, to run if necessary. But not enough to escape. The walls are 4 meters high, too tall to climb without assistance. She's trapped. Center stage. The only entertainment currently visible to 50,000 people who paid to see blood. The reaction. The crowd's response to her is complex. Cheering. Entertainment is beginning. New fighter is emerging. Laughter. A woman gladiator is amusing novelty, transgressive spectacle. Some find the idea inherently funny, woman attempting masculine violence. Crude commentary. She's beautiful, and Roman crowds are not subtle. Sexual comments shouted from the stands, assessments of her body, suggestions of what should happen after the fight. Betting. Odds are being called out. Bookmakers in the stands taking wagers. Her novelty makes betting unpredictable. Some think female fighter will be weak, easy to defeat. Others think exotic warrior woman might surprise. The presentation. Before the fight begins, there's ceremony. The editor, game sponsor, possibly a senator, possibly a wealthy patron, possibly the emperor if this is imperial games, is acknowledged from his seat. An announcer proclaims the fighters. Daciana. From conquered Dacia. Provocator. First combat. The crowd roars. Some in approval. Some in mockery. All engaged. Her opponent is announced similarly, a Gaul, also first fight. They're directed to approach the center. The walk across the sand is surreal. Every step feels performative, watched, judged. The sound of the crowd washes over her like waves. The salute. At the center, tradition requires them to salute the game sponsor. The gesture is raising their weapons toward the editor, acknowledging his authority, his power over their lives. Some sources claim gladiators would say, "I, Caesar. Morituri de salutant." Hail, Caesar. Those who are about to die salute you. But this phrase is only documented for one specific event, a staged naval battle under Claudius. It might not have been regular practice. Regardless, the gesture happens. Acknowledgement of mortality, of spectacle, of the crowd's power. Daciana raises her gladius. The weight feels different now, not training tool but actual weapon meant to cut actual flesh. Her hand is shaking slightly. She forces it still. The moment before. There's a pause. The crowd quiets, relatively. 50,000 people are never truly silent, but the roar dims to anticipatory murmur. The fighters are perhaps 20 meters apart. The horns sound, signal to begin. And in that final second before movement, before combat, before blood, Daciana experiences absolute clarity. This is real. Not training. Not simulation. Actual combat where actual death is possible. The opponent across the sand is human being with same desperation to survive, same terror, same training. One of them will bleed today. Maybe both. Maybe one will die. And 50,000 strangers will watch. Will cheer. Will remember this as pleasant afternoon entertainment. Her 4 months of training, the physical conditioning, the weapon drills, the psychological breaking, it all condenses to this moment. She's gladiator now. Completely. The Dacian noblewoman is gone. Only the fighter remains. The opponent moves first. Charges across the sand, shield raised, gladius ready. Daciana's training takes over. Automatically. Guard position. Weight balanced. Eyes tracking opponent's movement through the narrow slot of her helmet's vision. The fight begins. The Gaul charges like a bull, all aggression, no finesse. He's bigger than her, probably stronger. But also terrified, desperate, relying on momentum rather than technique. Daciana's training activates. Months of muscle memory override conscious thought. Step to the side. The fundamental defensive move drilled into her thousands of times. Don't meet the charge head-on, redirect it. The Gaul's momentum carries him past. His gladius swings wide, meant to strike where she was, hitting empty air. Counterstrike. She pivots, brings her gladius around in a practiced arc. The blade catches his exposed shoulder, above the armor line, below the helmet. First blood. The crowd roars. The combat. The fight unfolds in brutal exchanges that last minutes but feel like hours. The Gaul recovers. Furious now, or maybe just more desperate. Swings his gladius in overhead strike. Basic. Predictable. Daciana raises her shield. The impact jars her entire arm. He's stronger than her training partners, hits harder. The wooden practice shields didn't prepare her for this force. But she's trained for this scenario. Counter after block. She thrusts with her gladius while his weapon is committed to the blocked strike. The blade finds his ribs, or wood, except his armor deflects it partially. Still draws blood. Second strike. The crowd is screaming now. The drama, the back and forth, the exotic female fighter holding her own against male opponent. This is entertainment. Exchange of blows. He strikes, she blocks. She counters, he parries. The weight of the armor is exhausting. The shield alone is 10 kilograms, held extended, absorbing impacts. Her arm is burning. Sweat pours down her face, stinging her eyes inside the helmet. The sand makes footing treacherous. Not the packed earth of the training ground. This shifts, slides, betrays. She's unbalanced. Stumbles. He sees an opening. Presses the attack. Overhead strike again. Less technique, more desperation. She tries to raise the shield. Too slow. Too exhausted. The gladius catches her arm. Not deep, the manica, arm guard, deflects most of the force. But pain lances through her. Real pain. Real injury. Her own blood now mixing with his on her armor. The crowd's roar changes pitch. Blood from both fighters. This is what they wanted. The reversal. The pain focuses her. Adrenaline spikes. The training, the months of being beaten, the survival instinct, all of it crystallizes. The Gaul presses forward, overconfident. Thinks the hit has weakened her. He's breathing hard, exhausted, vision tunneled by his own helmet. Daciana does something they trained but she never fully believed would work. She drops low. In one motion, shield thrown forward into his legs, her own body dropping to a crouch, gladius sweeping at knee level. The leg sweep. Practiced thousands of times on the wooden palus, on training partners, in endless drills. It works. The Gaul's feet tangle. The shield hits his knees. He's off balance. The impact on the sand is audible even over the crowd. His helmet strikes hard. He's stunned. Daciana rises. The crowd is insane now, screaming, stamping, the sound is earthquake. She stands over him. Gladius pointed at his throat. The moment of decision. The Gaul is breathing hard. Wounded, shoulder, ribs, possibly head trauma from the fall. Exhausted. Beaten. He could surrender. Raise his finger, the traditional gesture, ad digitum. Plead for mercy. He doesn't. Training, gladiators are taught that surrender is disgrace. He tries to rise. Reaches for his dropped gladius. The crowd is chanting. Not words, just noise. Primal sound. Some want mercy, he fought well, shown courage. Some want death, they paid for blood. The editor signals. Daciana can barely see through her tunnel vision, through the sweat and blood, through the helmet's narrow viewing slot. But she sees enough. The thumb. Is it up, mercy, or down, death? Historical note. The actual gestures are debated. Modern movies show thumbs down for death, but ancient sources are unclear about exact signals. Some suggest thumbs up meant strike upward into the throat, death, while concealed thumb meant mercy. Regardless, she interprets the signal, or thinks she does. Or maybe she doesn't see it clearly, but the months of training, kill efficiently, survive at all costs, override everything else. She strikes. Gladius through the gap between helmet and shoulder armor. Into the throat. Quick thrust. Exactly as trained. The gall convulsions. Blood. Too much blood. He's dying. Not instantly, few combat deaths are instant. But quickly. His eyes widen. Hands clutch at the wound. The blood pulses, then flows, then slows. Then stillness. The aftermath. The crowd explodes. Not horror. Not sympathy. Celebration. The exotic Dacian female has killed. The transgressive spectacle has delivered. This is scandal entertainment, exactly what they paid for. Horns blare. Attendants rush onto the sand. The body is hooked with iron implements, dragged unceremoniously through the Porta Libidinensis, the gate of death. Removed from view, fresh sand is raked over the blood. Preparing for the next event, medical staff approach Daciana, checking her injury. Minor, she'll survive, can fight again. Daciana stands alone on the sand for a moment. The crowd is still roaring, chanting something, maybe her name, maybe just noise. She's alive. She won. She survived. And the trap closes. The realization. As they lead her off the arena floor, back down into the Hypogeum, as the noise fades and the adrenaline drains and the reality sets in, she understands. She survived today, which means she fights again. She won, which makes her valuable, which makes Quintus happy, which means he'll book her for more fights. She entertained the crowd, which means they want to see her again. The beautiful Dacian who kills. The exotic transgressive spectacle. This isn't victory. This isn't freedom. This is subscription to death on installment plan. She killed someone today. Took a human life. For entertainment. For the approval of 50,000 screaming strangers. And they loved it. Cheered for it. Will pay to see it again. She's Rome's doll now. Beautiful, deadly, trapped in a cycle that ends only one way. Eventually she'll be the one bleeding in the sand. Eventually someone faster, stronger, luckier, or just newer and more exotic, will stand over her. And the crowd will cheer her death the way they cheered her victory. The return. Back in the Ludus, hours later. She's been treated. The arm wound is superficial, will heal. She's been fed. Victory earns better rations. She's been congratulated. Quintus is pleased. His investment paid off. She's marketable. The other gladiators treat her differently now. She's proven herself. Earned a kill. Survived the arena. She has status. But she's also more trapped than ever. Because now she's proven she can win. Can entertain. Can generate profit. She's valuable property. Which means she'll be exploited until she's used up. Until she's too injured to fight. Until she's no longer novel. Until she dies. She sits in her cell. Alone. The iron collar around her neck. The brand on her shoulder. The blood, her opponent's, her own, still under her fingernails despite washing. She survived. And that survival has condemned her to fight again. And again. And again. The Emperor's doll. Beautiful. Deadly. Trapped. Tomorrow or next week or next month, she'll walk onto that sand again. Feel the sun. Hear the crowd. Raise her gladius against another desperate human being. Until the day she doesn't walk off. Epilogue. History records that female gladiators existed. Roman writers mention them, Cassius Dio, Juvenal, Martial. Archaeological evidence supports it, relief carvings, inscriptions, legal prohibitions. Emperor Septimius Severus banned female gladiators in 200 C. The prohibition suggests they were common enough to require banning. But the individual stories are lost. The names, the lives, the psychological journeys from person to property, these weren't recorded. Women like Daciana fought and died without anyone documenting their interior experience. What we know, they were novelties, exotic spectacles, transgressive entertainment that simultaneously shocked and titillated Roman audiences. What we don't know, how they felt, how they survived psychologically, how they processed being simultaneously entertainment and condemned. This narrative is composite, based on historical fragments and reasonable extrapolation. But it represents real women who fought in real arenas for real crowds who cheered their suffering. Daciana, and the countless women like her, survived conquest, slavery, brutal training, and the psychological horror of being spectacle. Some died in the arena. Some survived multiple fights. Some eventually earned freedom, rare but documented. Some lived long enough to be banned by imperial decree. But all of them shared this. They were trapped in a system that valued them as entertainment more than as human beings. Their beauty was their curse. Their survival was their trap. Their victories condemned them to fight again. Welcome to the forbidden archives, where history isn't glorious, where survival isn't triumph, where sometimes the cruelest fate is living long enough to become what destroyed you. The emperor's doll fought until she couldn't, and Rome forgot her the moment she stopped being entertaining. Some stories don't have happy endings. They just have endings.